My reef keeping journey took an unexpected turn recently. I was in Chicago for my son's basic naval graduation training, but a rare Northwest Florida snowstorm hit while I was away. I assumed I didn't need a 15-gallon quarantine tank heater. After all, I live in Florida. Therefore, I didn't install one. And because of that, the tank plummeted to a chilling 62 degrees. And as a result, the devastating crash, and it was very devastating. When we returned from Chicago a week later, I was in for a serious shock. I frantically transferred everything to my 200-gallon reef, but I still lost a beautiful coat coral, possibly a purple stylopora, and two Monipora digitatus. Now, I've been in this hobby for over 4 years, and I had this 200-gallon reef right behind me, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. And in fact, I'm still going through a lot of struggles. For 3 years, I made some very terrible mistakes. I didn't do water changes, I used tap water for top-offs, and I overfed the tank. Therefore, my nitrates went through the roof. We're talking over 200 parts per million, and boy, it was a mess. But I learned from these mistakes. I started using RODI water, doing monthly water changes, and I added a biopellet reactor right underneath my tank, right here behind me. And got rid of the filter floss, and I just recently brought it back. So even with a larger tank, you can, and I still do, run into problems like I'm dealing with algae here. But the key is to learn and adapt. This incident with the 15-gallon tank just reinforced that lesson. Even with my experience, and I'm not an expert at this, I can still make mistakes, and I still do. A small tank like that, even as a quarantine setup, is simply too volatile for corals long term. Therefore, I chose a 40-gallon breeder tank. Because of its size, it offers a larger, more forgiving volume of water, which is crucial for maintaining stability. And I cannot stress that enough. Stability is key. Plus, it struck a good balance between affordability and manageable maintenance. A lot of newcomers think a smaller tank is easier, but the opposite is often true. Small tanks, like nano tanks, lack the buffering capacity of larger systems, so even minor parameter swings can be catastrophic, like what I experienced when I went to Chicago. Think of it like the difference between a small cup of coffee and a large pot. A little too much sugar is far more noticeable in a smaller volume. Some people suggest getting the biggest tank you can afford, but I think a 40-gallon breeder is a great option for anyone. But this right here is a 200-gallon, and even this right here is still affordable. But whenever you're just starting out in the hobby or been in the hobby for a while, it's spacious enough for a thriving reef, affordable to set up, manageable to maintain, and therefore stable enough to allow corals to thrive. And that's why I chose it as a more reliable upgrade from my 15-gallon quarantine tank. Therefore, I returned the 15-gallon tank back to its primary job as a quarantine tank and not as a reef tank. You got to watch out for that because it happens. Setting up a reef tank, especially at first, can feel daunting. But with a structured step-by-step approach, success is achievable. Therefore, these experiences taught me the importance of planning and preparation, which I'll share next in my next video so you can avoid the similar pitfalls and create a thriving reef. I'm John Jr. Thank you for visiting my channel. Take care of yourselves. God bless. Bye-bye.